with American songwriter, we had the opportunity to talk to Shannon Labrie.
Adam was able to talk to Shannon over Zoom audio. Shannon is a Nashville-based singer-songwriter who brings life to insightful stories of a woman who remains true to herself. Check out her new song, Firewalker, from her upcoming album, Building.
Make sure to check out our YouTube channel and Facebook page at Bringing It Backwards and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bringing Back Pod.
We'd appreciate your support if you follow and subscribe to our podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts.
We're Bringing It Backwards with Shannon Labrie.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
I am good. I am sitting on my porch and it just rained, so I'm enjoying it.
Oh, really? It's raining. Whereabouts are you?
I am in my home in East Nashville, actually.
Oh, very cool. Is that where were you born and raised there, Nashville?
I wasn't. I was actually born and raised in Nebraska.
Nebraska, right on. We'll get into that in a second here. So our podcast is about your journey in the music industry and how you got to where you are today.
Awesome.
Yeah. Sweet. So you said you were born in Nebraska. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was born on a farm in Nebraska, a very small farm, and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. And by that I mean it was a town of I think technically it was a town of 9 people. It wasn't even a town.
9 people?
But yeah, I mean,
was that just like your family and another family?
Yeah. No, it was just my family. No, it was Douglas, Nebraska is the county, and it's just really small. And I mean, there's just literally a couple buildings in the quote unquote town. But yeah, I had a really beautiful childhood. Early on, my parents really encouraged imagination and the arts was a really big thing in my family. My dad played guitar and he wrote songs just in our little community and at church. And my mom played piano, and they were just really, truly nurturing parents to all of my siblings in music and just creativity in general. So it was actually pretty good. I have really good memories of growing up when I was little in the country.
That's cool. That's rad that your parents were into music as well. Did you learn from them, like guitar and piano and stuff?
Yeah, well, piano's my first instrument, and I kind of learned that from my mom. I think probably influenced me the most on that. And my mom has told me the story that her and my dad, and they would hear me. I would find these classical stations on the radio, and I'd sit him on top of the piano and listen to him and try to figure it out on piano. And that's how they learned that, I had a musical ear. And then my dad, I would say, is probably the one that really kind of nurtured the craft of songwriting. It's not like anything big, but he did teach me what a verse and a chorus was. And he was always super encouraging of me singing and playing and writing, which is cool. And my dad was actually a great guitar player. I think he's great, but he also learned by ear, and he listened to James Taylor records, and that's how he learned how to play guitar. So I feel he kind of passed that down to me. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Just learning by ear and playing along. That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I just saw on your Instagram, which is quite hilarious, or not. I mean, not hilarious, but it's are you allergic to corn, really? Or did you just put that there?
Yeah. No, it is actually, it's hilarious because I am allergic to corn, and I am from the corn state.
You grew up in Nebraska, which is isn't it that's got to be the biggest crop producer, right?
Oh, yeah.
Massive.
I mean, Nebraska is the corn state. Our football team is called the Cornhuskers.
Cornhuskers.
But yeah, I played volleyball in high school, and I kept getting so sick, and I actually had a sinus surgery. And finally they went, and they're like, "Oh, you're allergic to corn. That's why you're sick all the time."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then I actually moved to the East Coast when I was 17, so I kind of got out of there. And anyway, it's not a big deal, but I
got away from the corn.
Yeah,
but still, though,
from the corn.
Isn't corn syrup in everything?
Corn syrup is. I'm not EpiPen allergic, but I definitely just can't eat corn. And I try to avoid corn syrup. It's close to impossible, but people have way worse allergies than that.
Yeah.
There's people
Wow.
that like eat a nut and they end up in the ER. So I'm not complaining.
That's good. That's good. It's not a horrible allergy. Because when I saw that, I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, I mean, corn is like almost in every single thing that we eat. I think there's a documentary about it, like about corn and how it's really like, if we didn't have it, it would like half the products wouldn't exist. And it's crazy. Well, I'm glad that you're not like horribly allergic. That would have been.
Yeah, it would be awful. It really would be terrible. But,
Yeah.
So I'm lucky. I'm lucky in that. For
Okay,
sure.
that's great. Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, so you grew up you're in Nebraska, and you were learning how to play guitar and piano and stuff. You said there's 9 people in your town. Like, how were you performing to people, or like, how did that start?
Yeah, so my family, I grew up pretty intensely in the church that my family went to.
Uh-huh.
And so we were really involved in church. Like me and my siblings, stay in choir, and there were kid music programs and stuff like that. But no shows, just at church. And then my dad. I mean, I seriously grew up like my dad would come home from work and get his guitar out and write songs, and he'd have me and my sister come and sing, 3-part harmony on the songs that he write. And he'd play. I mean, like that's like literally my small childhood. Those are the memories I have. And then
that's awesome.
I think my first show I ever went to, it wasn't until I was in like maybe, I don't know, 5th or 6th grade. And my first show was James Taylor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but like we were kind of, I'll put it this way. Like I grew up, we were allowed to watch 1 hour of TV a week.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, like we really, but I'm always thankful to my parents for that, because they really, like I said, encouraged imagination, creative arts, and and just like reading.
That's cool. Yeah, just to be able to instead of sitting in front of TV learning. Yeah. No, exactly. And as a kid, you're like, oh, my friends watch TV, and then there's the famous quote of my mom, well, do you want to go live with that family? That was always her thing. That's funny.
Yeah,
I actually had a friend growing up that his parents didn't buy. They just didn't buy a TV. I don't think they had a TV in their household until like we were out of college.
Yeah, and I mean I really do enjoy TV, but now I'm like catching up on stuff. Like a couple years ago, I discovered the show called Frasier, which is like one of the most famous shows ever.
Sure.
I know.
That's funny.
But it's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, this show's brilliant. And this guy was bartending, and he looked at me like, are you telling me that you just found out about Frasier? He's like, yeah, it's so good. Have you seen it? And he's like, yeah, I've seen it. I was like, oh, okay.
Just a few times.
Yeah. And then I ordered a sherry because I was like, yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. No,
cool.
So the live show element wasn't really there. It was in church. And then I actually got sick when I was little, actually around 6th grade. I got really sick, and I was in and out of the hospital for a while. It's a long story. And then when I got out of the hospital in middle school, my dad got diagnosed with cancer, and then he passed away by when I was 13. And when he died, like I was very close to my dad, and when he passed away, music became totally my coping mechanism and my outlet for processing that. Mm-hmm. And it probably wasn't until like in high school, like I was involved in the choirs and stuff. But I think it was probably my senior year of high school that I played like an actual show in Lincoln, Nebraska. And, and I've always kind of been, as most people are, because you have friends and family who love you. But, it's like my mom thinks I'm great. My friends think I sing good. But, I really wanted to know, like, am I good? Am I a good singer, or do these people just love me?
Right.
So,
right.
I moved around quite a bit, but then eventually I ended up in Nashville, and I moved here because I wanted to learn how to write good songs. And I also wanted to know, like, if anybody was going to truly tell me either I suck or I have something, it's probably going to be Nashville. And, like, no, and I moved here. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know a single person. So it was very challenging move, but I'm so thankful I did. And, I found the best community ever here.
Mm-hmm.
You said that you moved to the East Coast when you were 17. Did you move to the East Coast to pursue music?
Yeah, no, well, kind of. So when my dad had a bone marrow transplant, my littlest brother and I, my mom sent us to live with my dad's sister and her husband. And my aunt and uncle are kind of like the second parents to me because of they've just always been really great to me. But so we were kind of out there at a younger age. And then when I graduated high school, I wanted out of Lincoln, and I wanted to live in a big city. I wanted to see the world. And I got, actually went to college for a second for music, but I dropped out so fast. It was such a quick realization for me that college was not what I wanted to do in my life. And and then I just kind of moved around. Like I drove a 92 Astra minivan and actually lived in it for like 6 months. Like the stuff that I did when I was a kid, I just can't believe I'm still alive. It's
wow. That's crazy. 6 months. Whereabouts or were you just driving around?
A lot of Virginia. I mean, I definitely went up to New York, and I remember like finding an area in Brooklyn to park the van, and I would like get in the back. And I can't believe telling you this, but I would get in the back of the van and I would take all these clothes and I would cover me in them. So it just looked like a mess in my car, and I would sleep. And one of the mornings, like Brooklyn, New York, I'm like, I can't even drink. I'm like 19, 20. And I like peek over my clothes and there's like 4 guys just looking, like kind of like looking in the car to see, just like, what is this car doing here?
Right.
And, it's just the dumbass things I did when I was a kid. My goodness.
Did you have to, when you saw them there, were you just still until they went away?
I just hid and they eventually walked away. But I remember being scared. And then I worked in Virginia. I waited tables in Virginia for 6 months in Richmond. And then I was up in Fairfax for a little bit. And then I ended up moving to Houston and lived with some friends and worked at a Starbucks. Like I just really was kind of figuring out the world. And then eventually I moved to Colorado, up in a small town called Estes Park. And that city is like Estes Park, Colorado changed my life in a massive way. And really, I feel like I kind of truly came into myself there. And that's where I played all over it. Like as a local artist there, like I was the girl that played in like all the places. And that's kind of when I was like, you know what? I should move to Nashville. And I thought about moving to New York or LA. But Nashville just made the most sense and kind of organically just made the most sense. And and then I moved to Nashville and, now I'm still here. Yeah, I haven't left.
You said that you kind of changed your life to move to Colorado. Is that just because you were able to get out and play in front of people more?
No, actually, the mountains, I think, are what changed me. I think I was, to be really frank, I think that I never really processed the death of my dad. And I think I had always been running from that and running from the pain and like just trying to get over it. And for me, I'm a major nature lover. I love to hike. I love being like in the woods and the trees. And I hiked so much in Colorado and truly, I feel like the mountains changed me in like, in a huge way. Spiritually, I grew. I felt closer to God. And I also feel like I really got in tune with who I was as a woman and truly like kind of figured out, okay, I think this is what I want in life. I think I do want to pursue music and be a musician. And it's probably one of the clearest decisions I ever made was moving to Nashville. It was just, and I even remember leaving Estes Park. There's this interstate. It winds around the Rockies. It's gorgeous. And when I like came around the top of the interstate, there was a triple rainbow. And it just was gosh. Like, yeah. And it was, and I believe, I'm a believer in those magical signs. And,
oh, sure. Yeah. My wife is really into the double rainbow. Every time she sees it, she's like, oh, there's my grandma. Like she's just, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I truly believe that. So I felt very, very blessed when I left. And I also, I think my whole life I just have felt really broken and lost. And for me, the mountains in Colorado, my time there just really helped me deal with a lot of that. And when I left Estes, I felt for sure more whole than broken, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing.
The mountains will do that to you.
Yeah. And what year was that when you were in Colorado? Like, because I noticed that you put out a record in like 2013, and you had some stuff going on in 2010. Was that all?
I think
prior to moving?
Yeah, I'm terrible with time. But no, my first record was recorded here. I moved here in 2009, so that would have been 2008. I was in Colorado.
So everything you put out was when you lived in Nashville.
Yes. Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. I had nothing. I had done a record and by record, I mean in a guy's basement, Tim Pratt, who I'm always thankful for. But I had my first recording experience in high school, and then the next one I did was in Nashville, Tennessee. And like I said, when I was in Nashville, I don't even count the first 2 years I was here because I knew nothing. Like I was writing like 8-minute, like jazz, bossa nova, weird songs. Like I knew nothing. And I just truly was so lucky and gifted, meeting a few people that definitely took me under their wing and showed me and taught me so much, especially songwriters. Like one of my favorite people to write with was James Keeley. He's one of my first co-writes. This is just so lucky. But he totally got me, and he taught me how to edit myself down and how to, more importantly, it's like music is fun and singing all the notes is fun, but you know, writing your story in a way that people can connect to it. I mean, that is like the true songwriter and what Nashville is built on. And I wouldn't say I've achieved that by any means, but I definitely feel like I was put in some rooms with people that did that and inspire me still to be a better writer. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you have some amazing songs and a lot of streams on some of your, on your songs as well. So people are obviously digging what you're doing.
Well, thank you. I definitely don't feel like I don't think I'll ever feel like I've arrived, because there's just so many great songwriters in Nashville. And that's the best part about this town is there's just, I mean, they say you throw a rock and you'll hit a musician or an artist or a songwriter, which is true. But the reality is you could throw a rock and you're going to hit somebody who is a million times better than you. And who is like, who's like a phenomenal songwriter. And I'm not saying that in a self-deprecating way. I'm saying that I am like awe-inspired by the creative souls that live here and go out every day and do what they do.
Yeah. I love that you said you never arrive, because I've heard that before. I interviewed this guy, Anthony, he's in a band called Bayside. They're like a pop punk band. And he said the same thing. He's like, you'll get signed to a record label. You can, he's like, you never arrive. Like if you get the record deal, then that means that you have a seat at the table. And then, what are you going to do with that? Like you got invited to the party if you have a record deal, but you're going to keep putting music out. Like you're never going to, you never arrive because you're always going to be working.
Yeah. 100%. And there's also, and I had this moment a few years ago, because, I've been in Nashville for a minute now, and there's a couple moments for me where I really had to think hard about what does the word, like, what does success mean? Like, what does successful mean for me? And is it being signed to a major label and going back to Lincoln and being like, I'm signed to a major label? And the answer is no, that's not success for me. And it's like, is it winning, the album of the year at the Grammys? It's like, is that a goal of mine? Sure, of course I want that. But also, like, once you get it, then what?
Yeah, then what's your next thing? I mean, look at like Taylor Swift or somebody like Billie Eilish. Yeah. She hasn't arrived yet she sells millions of records.
Man, there's an incredible, one of my favorite documentaries that I've ever seen it's called Supermensch, The Legend of Shep Gordon. Have you seen that?
No, I want to write it down though.
It's so good. It's called Supermensch, which is a Jewish word for like, just the most amazing person in the world. But it's Chef Gordon, who is one of the most famous managers in the world. And the artist he's most famous for managing is Alice Cooper.
Oh,
so
wow.
He managed, oh my gosh, Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix. Like, he managed some huge freaking artists. His story is phenomenal. And like, who didn't he manage is the bigger question. He started the Chef Network. Like,
oh, wow.
the guy who goes, pow, I can't remember his name right now.
Yeah.
What's his name? Anyway, but he's just so inventive and amazing, and he's had such a career. And he also managed Seth Meyers, and Seth Meyers produced it, so it's just done in a very fun, great sense of humor way. But in this story, the point of bringing this up is Chef Gordon, who is probably one of the most successful entertainment industry professionals ever, of all time. And he said one of the things what got him into being like wanting to learn from chefs and the art of making a dinner. He said the dinner, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. And at the end of the dinner, you're done and it's finished. And he said with an artist, you might have the most success, and I think about Casey Musgraves, like the most successful year of your life. You win Album of the Year, Artist of the Year, all these massive awards. You're at the top of your industry, and then the next day, you're not done. The next conversation is, what are we going to do next?
Yeah, what's next?
Like, when are we going to start working on the next record? When are we going to start? And honestly, that documentary really made me think about it, because I don't know. I think about myself really young, and moving to Nashville with all these stars in your eyes, which everybody has.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think I've been really lucky to have good friends that keep me from getting too far off the track. But I think it's just really easy to get lost in like your goals and what you want, and you kind of miss the ride. And I'm definitely, I would say the last couple years, I'm learning to embrace the journey and enjoy my life, and not just be like after the next thing,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot. I mean, yeah, like you said, I mean, you never arrive. Look at Paul McCartney. The guy's still writing records.
I know. Oh, he's like the most amazing example ever. And when I hear artists too that'll complain, they'll be like, I just don't want to play live anymore. I'm tired of playing the same songs. And I'll be like, that's something Paul McCartney has probably never said.
Right.
It's just like, you want to talk about somebody who's tired of playing the same damn song.
Yeah, he's
Paul
been playing
McCartney's
for like 50 years. Yeah, I know.
It's like insane.
Oh, man, it's crazy. So you get to Nashville. You said it took you about 2 years. You don't count the first 2 years of living there?
I don't, because I was a mess.
What was the first, what was the first thing that kind of got the ball rolling for you in Nashville?
So I moved to town. I was just a hippie with no concept of, I didn't know what the music business was at all. So I got a job waiting tables. I met still to this day, my two closest friends, Becky and Leah. We waited tables together, and I was writing, I had some co-writes, and I loved the process of co-writing, which is such a Nashville thing. But the process of collaborating. And I remember my first co-write, it was just like, oh my gosh, there's this other person who has these ideas that I would never think of. And, it's like, this is amazing. Mm-hmm. And I learned so much. And then probably I think it was my second year living here, and I even remember Mike Doyle, who was the head of that publishing company, he's like, I don't even know how you got put on this co-write, but we kept trying to cancel it because we're like, we don't know who this girl is. And, they're busy writing hits and stuff. It's like, who the hell is Shannon Labrie? And they couldn't get my contact info to cancel the write, which is so hilarious. And so I show up at this publisher house, Major Bob Music, which is Garth Brooks' manager's company, actually.
Wow.
And I showed up to write with this guy. His name's Kerry Barlow. He's oh my gosh, he's had so many massive hits now. And he's married to Hillary Lindsley, who is one of my favorite songwriters in town, who's written so many hits, but one of her biggest ones is Jesus Take the Wheel by Carrie Underwood.
Oh, wow.
Or the one that really got her catapulted her career. But Carrie and I wrote, and we just vibed so well, and we wrote a song called Whatever It Takes, and that song got on hold for a Lady Antebellum record. And it was actually it was the Need You Now Lady Antebellum record. And again, like, I didn't know what a hold was. I had no idea I didn't even know who Lady Antebellum was at the time. But it was like, oh, this is exciting. Like, you guys are excited, so I'm excited.
Right.
And I was working a double at the restaurant, and I get a phone call from this guy. His name's Paul Worley, who is a very renowned producer. He produced all the Dixie Chicks records. He's producing the Radio record and all these other huge records. But he called me. He was like, oh, I'm Paul Worley, and I heard this demo. I love this song, but I love your voice, and I want to meet with you. And that was for sure the kind of, oh, like, I got my foot in the door. And then my friend James Keeley and I, soon after that, wrote a song called I Remember a Boy, which never ended up getting cut, but just got on hold for a ton of records. And eventually it came to the point, which I'm always thankful to Major Bob Music for this, where it was like, okay, are we going to sign Shannon as a songwriter or not? Because they really took me under their wing and mentored me for probably at least a year. And
wow.
and I'm always thankful for Mike for this, because for me at that time, it's like, you want to go back to your hometown and say you've got signed, because that means you've made it, you know?
Right. People just recognize that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're signed to a major label? Like, wow, you must be super important.
Exactly. And that's so not how that works. But I just remember, Mike and I'd written a bunch of songs, had a bunch of holds, and he sat down with me and he goes, Shannon, if we sign you, my expectations for you will be I need somebody to write country hits, like songs that are going to thrive in the industry that we work in.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I think that would be a disservice to you. And he said, you are an artist. When your best songs are songs you write from your personal experience. And I think you need to go make your own record. And what's so funny is when he said that, it was like, totally. Like, it just made sense to me. I was like, oh yeah, it was so weird, because you'd think I would have been devastated, but I was like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm going to go do a record. And I went, and that was my first record. And I'm forever indebted to Mike Doyle for that advice, because he could have signed me and I would have been miserable, because I'm not a country hit songwriter. I mean, like some people are in town. I am an artist, and anyway, it was just phenomenal advice.
And that's what was Just Be Honest. That was that first record?
Yes. Yeah. That was my debut record.
Wow. Okay. Well, how was that? You put that out, and then were you just playing out around Nashville?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. I played so much around Nashville, so many writers rounds. And actually that song, I Remember a Boy, which I would say is probably the first song I wrote that didn't suck. but that song ended up being my single from the album, independently released, but ended up getting some weird but very cool organic press, which kind of furthered me a little bit more in just the industry in town and got me connected to more people. And then that record, I mean, like, for a first record, as an independent artist, I look back, I'm very proud of it, and I'm very thankful for where it took me. And I would say that record is probably for sure the foundation that I've built probably everything else on.
Wow. And from after putting that record out, what was the next move that you made? Like, I noticed you put out a few EPs. You've done quite a few Christmas songs. Are you big into Christmas?
I love the holidays. Oh my gosh, I love holiday music so much. Yeah, I'm a sucker for it. Yes,
yeah, you have like a whole EP like that you just put out last year, right? Of Christmas songs.
Yeah, I have a full produced with a band EP called My Snow Angel for holidays. Oh, yeah. And then And then last year we went in and did one live to tape with just me and my guitar, which was really fun to do.
Mm-hmm. Is that Home From Anywhere?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. I love Christmas music. I love holiday music. Bring it on. I want it.
I figured as much. I'm like, she's got a lot of covers of Christmas songs here.
I know, like Shannon Labrie radio is just going to be all holiday music at some point.
That's huge. That music is huge.
That's true. Not a bad idea. But no, yeah, Just Be Honest was great. Like that record was, awesome. And then I ended up, you're just always working and writing and meeting people. But I wrote this song called Alcohol, which is a devastatingly sad song. And I played it at a show and people like really responded to it. It kind of caught me off guard. And then I just started playing it more, and people that were in the audiences were just coming up after shows to me in a way that I had not experienced. And it was very powerful to me. The power of sharing an experience and sharing it with a stranger, which is what any artist does. You're sharing your experience and perspective with thousands, with 5 people to millions of people. And those people, like some of them really relate to it. And so for me, Alcohol was a song where I would say to date, like the most people relate to. And which is sad because it is a very sad song, but it's also just a beautiful moment to meet people and be like, hey, I've been through that. And you're able to say, I've been through that too. And you're not alone, which is a beautiful, beautiful moment to have just with human to human interaction. But that song got me, like, I had a bunch of industry interest and it really kind of, I would say, I mean, I had a lot of people interested in signing me because of that song. And I was flown to a couple labels and at showcases, but at that time I didn't have a manager. I was 100% independent. Like I had nothing. I owned everything, which was great. But I had no team around me. And a lot of people, anyone in the industry knows that it's just not like an easy, like, oh, we love this song, we're going to sign you and it all works out. Like nobody gets anywhere unless you have a lot of people who are supporting you. And, I mean, it's incredible how, I mean, I'm using Casey Musgraves as an example today. I'm not sure why I love her last record, but you look at her and it's like Casey Musgraves has lived in Nashville, I think since 2007, 2005, 4. Like she's been here a long time. And Casey's phenomenal talent, incredible. But I think she'd be the first person to say this, that she's where she's at now because she got surrounded by incredible, hardworking people who, it's always a team effort. So all that to say, I didn't have a team around me. And so I went and did my next record, which I call my therapy album. And I just kind of went a little dark. I went through therapy, which has saved my life. I'm a massive advocate to therapy. And War and Peace, a lot of songs on that record came from working through a lot of stuff. And I went into House of Blues Studio D in Nashville with a band and just was like, I'm doing this. Like I had to record those songs and put it out, and I just had to do it. And so that was kind of my thing. And then Alcohol, it got some streams and reaction, and I'm actually releasing a new version of that song on Friday. It's actually coming out.
Are you? Yeah, because you do have an acoustic version and the original version.
Yes, I think I have, because I released it as a single, and then it came out on the record, and there's this whole band. But I'm releasing actually on my electric guitar, a kind of newer spin on it before I release my third album, which will be out September 25th. I'm so excited.
2 days after my birthday.
Ooh, happy birthday to you and my record.
And your record.
Yes.
That's awesome. So Alcohol, you put Alcohol on what, Spotify or something? How did it start? I mean, it has millions of streams. Did you start seeing traction? Tell me about that.
I did see traction. And it was super exciting when it went out, and because it was like 0 streams to like 500 streams in a week. And a lot of that is because I'm illuminating the secrets of the industry. And also everything's so different now. It doesn't even matter anymore. But when I released Alcohol, which I think was like 2015 or 16, it got on New Music Friday on Spotify. And so that's what really got it out. And then the streams just kept happening. But now everything is so different. Now I don't even know what streaming is. I love it, but it's just understanding it is, it's an ever-changing, is very quickly changing world right now. So
sure. So when you put it out as a single, it went on New Music Friday?
Yeah.
Wow.
It went on New Music Friday, and Apple, like iTunes, did a feature on it. And it is my biggest song to date. It's and I'm very thankful for it, because that song, because as an independent artist who waited tables forever, that song is actually what paid for my last record. That's how it paid for my last record.
Wow. So for the record that's coming out in September?
No, the record War and Peace.
It paid for War and Peace. Wow.
Yes.
And when you put that out, did you put that out independently again?
That record was completely independent. And actually this album that's coming out in September, this will be my first album that's coming out with a partner with my publisher, and who's also acting as my label right now. So I actually just got my physical CDs in the mail, and it says Maureen Records on it. And I was like, oh my gosh.
That's cool.
It doesn't say Shannon Labrie music. Which normally it does.
Well, how is it? When did you sign to the label and stuff?
I signed to Maureen I think technically in February of this year, right before the pandemic and the tornado. So.
Oh my gosh.
I know the timing was kind of impeccable, but I'm so thankful for it. And I honestly, what's so cool, and I have nothing against working with men. I love men. I worked with many incredible men, but I'm actually working with an all-female team right now. My publisher is a female, my manager, one of my main co-writers on this record, Tia Stillers, and my PR team is female. So it's kind of fun. This is a whole new experience for me that I'm just soaking it all up.
That's amazing. And did you have all the tracks recorded? Was the plan to release in September, or did COVID kind of ruin stuff for you?
Yeah. No, none of this was the plan. But I've been writing at Maureen, and my publisher, Diana Mayer, who's a fierce, incredible woman, she hooked me up with Tia and Tia about a year and a half ago. And Tia she's a massive songwriter. She wrote I Hope You Dance, which is one of the biggest songs of the last 2 decades. Mm-hmm. And she also wrote Blue on Black by Kenny Wayne Shepherd, which was just #1 last year by Five Finger Death Punch.
Oh, really?
Which is the most amazing band name in history, I think. And I'm always telling Tia, I'm like, do you want to start a band with me? We can call it Two Finger Death Punch. I don't think it would go over well. But I met Tia, and we just instantly connected and started writing. And so I think, let's see, four out of the 7 songs on this project were co-written with Tia. And we did a session because we've really been just trying to figure out, like, my first and second record where the sound is a little bit all over the place. Like, my first and second record, you couldn't be like, oh, Shannon is Americana, Shannon is pop, Shannon is rock, or whatever. It's kind of a mix. And so we're just trying to figure out kind of like what the next step is. And the studio that my publisher owns, which is amazing, is one of the few studios in Nashville that records all analog, like live to tape. And we decided to book a session with just our favorite songs that, you know, Tia and I had been working on or that I had written in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so we booked a small band, just guitar, me, drums, or bass, and went into the studio and did a session of 5 songs. And we've had those since summer last year. And we were thinking, okay, like, yeah, we like the way this sounds. This is cool. Like this live element, kind of untampered, well, totally untampered with, you know, there's no going in and like tuning your voice or fixing stuff. It just is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And we were going to go in and do more sessions like that and pick the songs. And then COVID happened. And so, I don't know, it's probably May, my publisher called me and she was just like, you know what, Shannon, in so many words, F COVID, we can't go in the studio and work right now, but we have this session and I think we should release it because it sounds great. And I was like, I am all in. And then we ended up pulling last year I did a cover of a Tom Petty song, and then I did a song that I solo did on piano that we ended up adding to it. And so this record is totally just it's kind of defiant to COVID in a way where it's like, I'm not going to let you dictate when I release music, and I'm going to release a record in spite of you. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that the record coming out is the songs you recorded to tape?
Yes. Yeah. The whole thing was recorded live to tape, and yeah, it's funny because it sounds different to me. It sounds very different from what I've done before, because my last 2 records I would say they're a little more like polished and to a grid. Mm-hmm. And this is a lot more raw, and yeah, it's cool. I'm really proud of it though. And the people that played on it and everyone involved in it, it's just, they're amazing.
Mm-hmm. And you've released 1 song so far.
Yes.
Firewalker is the first single that you put off of the album. Why did you decide on that song?
We decided on Firewalker because I think as a team, we all need that song. That song is just like, I don't know. I want to feel like I can kick ass and like I can do anything. And I think we all were feeling the need for like I have so many ballads out, and I think it was just like, I want to put a song out that makes people feel like they are resilient and strong and can get through this. And we all just kind of agreed that Firewalker was that track. Was
the song. Very cool.
Yeah.
And have you been doing, like, are you doing any live streams type stuff to, promote it, or what? Do you have a plan when the record comes out?
I've definitely been doing, I've been doing live stream. I've been doing live stream shows, and we'll be doing more. There's some stuff in the works. Yes. So yes, so there will be more live streams, but it's super weird. It's weird promoting a record and releasing something when you can't tour it.
Right.
But, we're figuring out some cool things to do. And one of the things that we actually are doing today and tomorrow, is because I waited tables and bartended for so long. I feel super indebted to the restaurant community here in Nashville for keeping me going. And so we started a thing called the Building Project, and kind of inspired from, inspired's not the right word, but just I would say inspired by the people overcoming the tornado that happened in, my neighborhood. And then also just Nashville as a community, like coming through the pandemic together. But we're going into local businesses and just showing how they're safely reopening and kind of sharing their story. And so, and then I'm able to play a song, which is a fun way to be able to play when you can't tour. So keep an eye out for the Building Project, because we got some videos coming out with that. That'll be cool. That's really cool. Do you enjoy doing those like live stream things, or are they not your favorite? I do. I'm really thankful for them, because they keep me connected to like my audience and my fans, and And also, like, my mom, who was far away, like, it's nice to be able to play. It's nice, even though it might be in my house or studio and there's not an actual audience there, it feels good to go and, like, set up and perform and play the songs to people. And something that's cool about streaming that I'm surprised I like, because I am an idiot when it comes to technology, but I actually really love the immediate commenting and responses.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's different. It's different than, you know, a live show, but I don't know. It's kind of fun to, like, I don't know. I enjoy interacting with people on such a fast basis. But I will say there's also funny ones where I did one on a different platform that I won't mention, but there were a lot of people on it.
Really?
But there was this one guy that wanted me to play George Strait. And any song I played that wasn't George, which I didn't play any George Strait songs because I was playing my own songs. But he just kept commenting on there, "This sucks, play George Strait."
Did you call him out?
No, I mean, it was cracking me up because you know, you're playing your song and you're reading these comments. I think things like that are hilarious. So
that's funny.
It's like the highlight of my week. It's like that guy, that makes me happy. That's very funny.
That's cool. Is it hard to follow the comments as they're coming through while you're trying to play?
It is it definitely is sometimes I'm better than others. But ultimately it's like, I'm an optimist at heart. I will always find the lighter, brighter side, but at the end of the day, I mean, I am dying to play live music and get back on the road and play for real people. That is something that keeps me breathing, and I miss it a lot.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully sooner than later, everybody will be able to get back out and, you know, perform and shows and all that. So.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much, Shannon, for talking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, seriously, thank you so much for having me. You're very, I feel like I just talked your ear off. You're very easy to talk to.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I love your story. It's so cool. I mean, going from 9 people to Nashville and having a million streams, I bet you would have never guessed that. I mean, that's so cool.
I need to check the actual number of that town because it might have been 20, but I'm going to go double check.
Below 50.
Yes, below 50 for sure.
Oh, that's crazy. Well, that's awesome. Thank you again so much, Shannon. I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
I want to know if you have advice for other aspiring artists.
Ooh, that's such a good question. I would give the advice that was given to me when I first moved to Nashville. This guy called me. Is a big songwriter. I didn't know him, but a friend of a friend of a friend knew him, and he called me and was like, "Hey, you moved to Nashville. You know, I love your voice." And he said, "Man, if there's anything else, like if you have a plan B, or if there's another job or like anything else that you were thinking you might want to do with your life," he said, "go do that." and this is a guy I didn't even know, but he said, "Go do that." And he goes, "But while I'm talking to you, if in your mind and your heart, you're like, no, the only thing I was meant to do in my life was to write songs and perform them and sing them. If that is in your mind, you're just like, there is no plan B. This is it." He said, "Hold on to this moment, because you will look back on this moment that you knew without a shadow of a doubt that this is what you're supposed to be doing, because you're going to need it, because it's going to be hard and you're going to want to quit. And there's going to be moments where you feel like there's just no way you can keep going, because being an artist and being a songwriter or just being in the arts in general feels impossible at times." And that, honestly, that's like, I mean, I have thought back to that moment many times in my life here in Nashville, because when he told me that, it was like, no, there's no plan B. There's no like other option. Like, this is what I'm meant to do. And I remember that feeling that was very strong. So I would say to anyone listening, if you just heard me say that and you're like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm supposed to do this," then hold on to that moment and believe it with all your heart and go pursue your dreams fearlessly. And message me anytime on socials if you're feeling down, and I will encourage you.